Hello and welcome back. My name is Angela Caicedo and I'm a Java evangelist at Oracle. What we want to do is this is going to be part 3 of building your first JavaFX application using NetBeans 7.1. So let's get started. So far you have been able to add components to your application. We actually introduced events, mouse events. We use some binding where we associate the x coordinate of the image with the mouse movement. So let's now, in this part, we're going to focus on animation and effects. Very simple, but it still give you an overview of the great power of JavaFX. So let's get started. First of all, what I want to do is I want to bring into our application a second image. So far, we've been working with this one, with the blue sea. Now what I want to introduce is a yellow sea. Okay, so we're going to be playing with these two ones. So pretty much to start with, I want to just copy what we have for Z0. So we're going to create a second image that is going to hold the new C, the orange C, and it's just going to be Z1. We also have the same clipping area for C1 because it's exactly the same situation, long image. We don't want to see all of that. So we're just copying and pasting this information. C1, of course, the image that we want to display is C1, and then we create the clipping area, pretty much the same size, rounded corners. We set that clipping area to the new image that we created, okay? And we added into your scene graph. Okay, now we know that down here we have some events when the mouse gets dragged, so let's copy and paste this also for C1. So the C1 also will move along with the mouse movement, okay, with the mouse dragging. So C1 when mouse is pressed, C1 with its move, and we do have the binding functionality also for C1. So let's run this. And pretty much we have the same thing. We're gonna see the image, but by default, because we added the yellow one, the new image last in my C graph, is gonna be on top. So what is happening is the blue C is still there, it's just underneath. We won't be able to see it. So what I wanna do is I wanna play with the opacity. I wanna show and hide. That way we can see both images. So when we run the application, what I wanna do is I wanna hide this yellow image that is on top. We want to hide it, so we're only going to see the blue sea when we start it. As the mouse moves over the application, I want to show the yellow sea. When we get out, when the mouse gets out of the application, we're going to go back to the blue one. So we're going to show you and hide C1. Let me close the application and let me go all the way to the top where we create C1. So what we want to do is we want to set the opacity of C1 to be 0 at the beginning. So we are not showing it. We are adding it to the scene graph, but we're not showing it. Now, what we want to do here is we're going to add some event handlers. So when the mouse, we're going to actually define mouse enter and mouse exit. When the mouse enter, we're going to show the yellow image. When the mouse exit, we're going to hide it. Okay, so let's also see one. We're going to set on mouse enter. Okay, so when mouse enter, we want to have a new event handler. Okay, that is gonna be a mouse event. And for the handle method, what we want to do, so I want to take C1 and I actually want to set the opacity to 1. So we want to show it. So when we enter, we want to show it. Now when we exit, on mouse exit, and we have a new event handler. Okay, we want to hide it again. So when we exit, we're gonna hide C1. Okay, so now let's see what is going to happen. So we're going to see both images as we define, but it's not the desired behavior because they're just gonna either show it or hide it. So application started, fine, we're looking at the blue image, that's fine, and when we enter, we switch back to the yellow one. When we exit, we actually see again the blue one. So yes, it is working, but it's just changing rapidly from 0 to 1. The opacity is just changing from 0 to 1 and 1 to 0. So what I want to do instead of just changing it right now is I want to take I want to change it, but I want to take a second to do so. So we're going to show a nice transition between images. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce animations. In JavaFX we have a fade transition. A fade transition object would allow you to create a fade animation that will last for the period of time that you specify. So let's create animation using first this fade transition. So I'm going to create a new fade transition. Okay, and it's called it fade transition. Okay, and down here after we create the images, we're going to instantiate it. Fade transition is gonna be a new fade transition, and this is the definition. So we're going to specify the duration, how long we want this animation to last, and which node is it going to be affected by this fade transition. So the duration, we want the duration to be in seconds, and we want to be 1 second. So it's going to take 1 second to do the animation, and it's going to affect C1. Okay. Now for the fade transition, we need to specify what is the original value, the from value, and we want to specify the to value. So the fade will work with those two values. It's the fade animation. So fade transition set from value, so it's gonna change from 0 to, so fade transition set to value to 1, so it's gonna change from 0 to 1. Okay, so remember it's an animation, so we need to be able to play it. With animation, you can either play forward or you can also play backward. So we're going to use the same transition, first forward to show and then backward to hide. So when with the mouse enter, okay, so I'm going to modify mouse enter and mouse exit. So now it's not going to happen abruptly, it's just going to use the animation. So we're going to play the animation, okay? How is it going to play? So the first time we want to play it, so we want to play it forward. So we want to set the rate to be 1. Okay, and now when we hide it, let me copy this. What we're gonna do is the rate is gonna be -1. Okay, so let's see now how your animation works. So we see the blue one, and as we enter, we have a nice animation for showing, and we exit, we have a nice animation to hide. Okay, so fade transition to create fade animations, very easy. We're using the rate to play forward and to play backward. Okay, now what we want to do, we want to bring a shark into this application. So it's going to be a shark image. Let me just show it. It's a PNG image, and this is the shark. So what we want to do, again, we're going to create a new image view for it. So we're going to have a private image view, and it's going to be shark. Okay. Down here, when we create, let's create a new shark. New image view is gonna be new image, and it's gonna be an input stream. It's gonna be my C application. We're gonna take the class. Gonna get stream resource as a stream, and it's gonna be my images directory, and it's called shark.png file. Okay. Now we want for the shark, it's a little big. We want to make it a little smaller, so we're gonna use the scale property for it. So we're gonna take shark, and we're gonna set scale to be 0.8, so it's just a tiny little smaller than the predefined size. So set scale y also 0.8. Now we want this shark, the shark is yellow, so we wanna also behave as the yellow sea. So what I want to do is I want to set the properties, bind the opacity property of the shark to the opacity property of C0, C1. So we have the opacity property be bind to C1, also the opacity property. Okay. Because we're going to be playing with shark a little bit, I'm going to take this shark and I'm going to refactor it, and I'm going to create a new method for it. So refactor new method. For this new method, I'm going to call it set shark. Okay, just to organize a little bit the code, okay? We have the shark here. So we create it, we scale it smaller a little bit, and we bind the opacity to be the same as the C1. Finally, we need to add it to my scene graph. Okay. Now, if we run it, we should be able to see a shark. Okay. So nothing. We show it. So now we have the new shark that is actually behave as the C1. Okay, let's actually apply some effects to this shark. So let's, for example, apply some shadow to it. So for that, we're going to use the effect drop shadow. Okay, so let me create that private drop shadow, and let's call it shark shadow. Now, if we go down to the shark, we're going to take shark shadow, and we're going to create a new drop shadow. Okay, and we're going to use this second constructor where we're going to tell the x and y coordinate, that displays the offset of the shadow related to the x and y coordinate of the object, and then the color for that particular shadow. So what I want to be is I want to put it 5.5 for the x, 5.5 for the y coordinate, anything for the other one, and the color is going to be black. Okay. And then we want to actually apply that effect to the shark. So I want to take the shark and I want to set the effect to be the shark shadow. Okay, so we associate that shadow to the shark that we just created. So let me play one more time to see if the shadow is there. There's a small bug that I already filled in, and I'm gonna show you exactly what it is. So as we get in, we have the shark and we have the shadow, and we get out, the shadow also disappears. The effect that is this shadow is associated with the shark, and it should be fading in and fading out exactly as the shark. And you can see that it doesn't really do it properly. As I say, it's a little bug that I already fill it with the team, with the FX team, but you can say that it's actually pretty nice how the sharks are also associated with it. The last piece of the exercise is we want to do some effect. When you click the shark, you want the shark to swim away. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some translation in the X and Y coordinate of the sharks, and we're also going to be scaling the sharks so they look bigger. It looks like they are swimming towards you. So let's do that. So let's create some properties that we're gonna use. So we're gonna move the sharks in the X and Y coordinates. So we need those two variables. We need to scale the shark. So we need a third variable, and we need also at the same time that we move the shark, we need to move the shadow of the shark. So we need a fourth property for that, because we're going to be doing binding. So as I move this property, we're going to update the X and Y property, the scale property, and the shadow position. We're going to create some double properties. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be a simple double property. Simple double property. The first one is going to be the X offset, and it's going to be new simple double property. The value is going to be 0. So originally there is no offset. Same second one is going to be the Y offset. Simple double property, again is going to be 0. Simple double property, this is going to be the offset of the shadow. And in this case, the shadow is 5.5 away from the image. And finally, the scale value. And the scale originally is 0.8. Okay, so we created the variables that we needed. Let's go down to where we create the shark. Okay, so we're gonna bind some information. So first we're gonna take the scale property of the shark, scale X property, to be bind to shark. Bind, the observable object is gonna be the scale. Okay, then we do the same thing for the Y property. Scale Y property is gonna be bind to scale. Then we take the X property, the coordinate X property, and we're gonna bind it with the X offset that we're gonna be moving along. And then the Y property also going to be binding, in this case, to the Y offset. Okay, last we're going to be playing with shadow. Okay, so the shark shadow is actually going to be also, we're going to change the offset X property to be bind to F offset. Okay, and the same thing for the white one. Set white property is gonna be bind to S off. Okay. Now, what we want to do now is we want to change the value of a scale X off, Y off, and S off. Those are the five values that we want to be changing. And the way we're going to doing it is through animation. So animations are going to be created using a timeline. The timeline will provide the capability of updating property values over the time. So we're going to specify how these values are going to change over time. And the way we specify that is using keyframes. Okay, so let's first create a timeline. Okay, timeline, and it's gonna be shark swim away. Okay, and in the shark, when we create the shark, we're actually going to have shark swim away. Okay, and then let me show you exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just copy and paste some code that I have. So there is a bunch of error. Let me fix that with fix imports. Yes, I'm gonna take the animations from FX. So what we're doing is, again, you do animations through a timeline and you're gonna say how the values are gonna change over time. And the way to do so is through the keyframe. So we have two keyframes. The first keyframe is gonna happen in time 0, where we set up the values of the S off, scale, X off, and Y off. So this will be the original values. And the second keyframe is gonna happen 5 seconds later and will tell where the offset, the scale, and the X and Y coordinate of the shark is going to be. Okay, now you do have the animation, you do have to play the animation. When is the animation going to happen? Well, the animation is going to happen when you click the sharks. So we're going back to the shark and we're going to set on mouse click. Okay, and we create a new event handler for this. And in the method, what we want to do is we're gonna take the shark swim away animation and we want to play it. Okay, so once you click it, the shark will swim away. One last trick is the size of the screen. So I want to make the scene way bigger so the shark can actually swim along the whole screen. So I'm gonna put it 1300 by, let's say, 1000. Doesn't really matter, I just want to make it bigger so it actually swim away. There's one little thing that we're still missing. What happened is, if you pay attention, the shark was placed on top of C1. Let's go down to C1 of the events associated with C1. C1. We have mouse press and drag that doesn't really affect. We have on mouse enter and on mouse exit. What happened is the sharks are on top of C1. So whenever you try to put the mouse over the shark to click on it, we're gonna trigger these two effects. When we enter the shark, the on mouse exit is gonna be triggered because you're actually leaving the C1 image. You're entering into the shark that is on top, so he will receive the event. This is totally normal, but this is not the behavior that we want. We do not want to fire mouse enter and mouse exit unless I really quit that area. Meaning I do not want to fire these two events, enter and exit, if what I did was that I went over the shark. That is actually still part of the C1. So I'm gonna put a small if condition to this uh, to these events here. So I need to check if I really leave, if the mouse really left the application area, not just mouse over the shark. So let me create a boolean at the top, okay, that is actually going to hold if we really exit or not. By default, it is true. When the application started, we are outside that area. We are outside the screen, okay? Now, we only want to play, let me go back to C1, mouse enter. So, I only going to trigger the, I only gonna do the transition if I really exit. So if I'm really out and I'm entering, I do want to play this animation. So if exit, if I really exit, then play this. Okay, so I was really outside the application. Okay, let me do a little bit of formatting here. Okay, and then of course, if I really enter, I'm not outside anymore, I'm in. Okay, so just make sure we set that. And now if I exit, what I want to check if I'm really outside the coordinates, the area, the whole area of C1. So we want to do if another if condition. In this case, we want to check for C1 the clipping area. Okay, and we want to know if this area contains the values associated with the mouse. Okay, so we're going to create a point 2D that actually have the mouse information, mouse x coordinates. So we're gonna get the scene x and get scene y. So what it says is if the area for C1 doesn't contain this. If it does contain, it means that you are on the shark. You haven't left the window. If it doesn't contain that, you're outside the window. We do want to perform this. Okay? So if I really quit the application, please do this. Let me just format a little bit the if condition. And again, you want to make sure that yes, you left. So this is true. Okay, so let's try to run the application one more time and hopefully everything is working. Okay, we do have the application. When I enter, we do see the shark. When I exit, the shark is there. When I enter and I step over the shark, I do not see the mouse enter and mouse exit for C1. And if I click, the sharks will swim away. Okay, so with that, I conclude your first application of your first session, your first collection of videos of how to create your first JavaFX application. Again, a little bit of everything, a little bit of animation, effects, binding functionality, components. Again, this is Angela Caicedo, and I hope you enjoy this set of tutorial. Thank you very much.